Hello, welcome to the Lone Show. I'm your host, John Lone. In this episode, no regulars, because reasons, I guess. As for our guest, he's from New York City, from the state of New York, currently in Novato, California. He's a president, founder, Care for Peace, international health facility developer, and planner. That's all. That's quite a mouthful. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Jeff Hardy.
Hey, Peter. Nice to be with you today.
Me too. So, how is life?
How is life?
Yes.
Well, life is always alive. That's the best part about it. We're lucky if we can stay here for a while.
Fabulous. Is there anything you've been up to recently or working on at the moment?
Well, actually, I'm working on the second book now. The first book has gone over quite well, and I'm already getting a lot of excellent feedback for the first book, which is To Care for Peace, a global mandate to secure the second human evolution in perpetuity. The first book is going wonderfully well. I was absolutely amazed how quickly it took off.
Nice.
So now I have to write a second book.
Okay. Very nice.
So that's going to be about the Care for Peace templates, because about 50 years ago, I started writing, okay, what can we do to help our human species get from what I'm calling the first human evolution to the second human evolution? Right now, we are in the suspended human evolution because the first human evolution, I explained in the book, is over. The first human evolution ended sometime around the mid-60s, when mutually assured destruction kind of put the seal on the end of the 2.5 million year progression of our species. A lot of things to think about here, because the big question everybody asks is, well, heck, when did it end and why did it end? And where we are now? And then, of course, the last question is, what is the second human evolution? And I can't answer that, because we have to get into a planning mode, a global planning mode. And we have to use new words, we have new terminology, and we have to have ways where we can talk with each other that is not another Tower of Babel situation. So have you had any thoughts yourself about what the first human evolution might have been and why it ended?
I honestly have no idea.
Well, you're safe.
All right then.
Because most people haven't even heard of it. And in fact, they've only heard of it if I've been talking on a lot of podcasts and a couple of television shows. And so once they hear it, they start talking about it with their friends. And that's really the reason why it took off. It's a lot of word of mouth that suddenly happened thanks to a couple of television pundits and a couple of really, really neat podcasts. Because what you're doing, Peter, is you're at the forefront of spreading the word. And I hate to use the idea of spreading the word, because that sounds like a religion. It isn't. It's something that it might be closer to a meme than anything else. We need to get people starting to talk about the first human evolution and why it ended. We need to have them start talking about the suspended human evolution that we're in now. And then we need to start having people think about, well, how on earth are we going to be able to plan the second human evolution when we've got wars all around and we've got leaders who are autocrats or not good democratic leaders? We're just flopping around like a bunch of fish on deck. So when I ask you what you think the first human evolution is, maybe your thoughts should go to, well, where have we gotten now from where we've been? Why are we where we are now? What are the things that are getting in the way of our moving forward Because right now, we're hearing a lot of people, well, media news has picked up on, well, I guess we've actually started the Third World War. We're already in it. It's just starting in a different way. Nobody's getting shot in Austria. Nobody's dropping a bomb on or dropping bombs in Pearl Harbor. I mean, there's all sorts of things that are indicating that humanity is not moving forward. So
see that.
that's really what are your thoughts?
Well, honestly, I'd say you're probably right about that. The world is a very complicated place, and everywhere you see and go, there's always going to be conflicts around the world. And the real issue is, of course, that it's not about whose side to take, who's wrong and who's right. It's about the loss of lives along the way. And
Nice.
because of those lost lives, the families of these lost lives are mourning. They're sad that they lost their close relative. And not many people are talking about that, unfortunately, because it doesn't get much attention by the media. All people care about is which conflict's going on, and whose celebrity is talking about which celebrity, and so on. That's the world we've came to at this point.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, and I think about, writing on your tales on that when I think about the children and the women who were getting killed. I it's not just the families that are suffering because of what happened. I look at the Gaza problem and the women and children and that are getting killed, and the problem in the Ukraine where women and children are being killed. But it's this idea that, well, if we dropped a bomb, we're going to kill the people we want to kill, which are the people who are wearing uniforms of the other color. And the collateral damage is the people that we don't want to kill who are standing around. And I just think that these people are not fighting the right war. And that's where the whole idea of care for peace comes, because I think that if we actually care for peace, we better define peace as something different than the place between two wars, or what you get after a war, or even if you're sitting on top of a mountain with your legs crossed and your eyes closed. I mean, that's not the peace that we can be aiming for anymore. We need to aim at a dynamic kind of peace. And the only way we're going to get there is if we actively care for peace itself, and then we take care of peace. So I'm not talking in any religious tones. I'm not talking in any typical tones of, well, peace is this space between two wars, and gee, well, why don't we have a peace agreement? Those don't seem to work if people don't take care of them. And when I think of your comment, which is about the families of the people who've gotten killed, my God, that's just, what are those photographs doing to the people who see them? Don't they think about their own children? Don't they think about the people who have died that they aren't related to? I sure do. I almost cry. And sometimes I have when I've seen these people carrying a coffin of a baby. Oh my God, it was collateral damage. Just horrible.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Well, eventually, I was going to say, eventually we will find a way that we could all live as one.
Amen. Thanks, John Lennon.
Yes.
Yeah. And thank you, Britain, for giving us the Beatles. Just love it. Yep. So, how is your country doing with all of this that's going on in the world?
Well, currently, not much is going on, but of course, it could be worse. It has been worse, but at this moment in time, I honestly think it could be a lot worse. So things are kind of getting better, but still not as good as we want it to be.
Well, it's interesting. I know that we get The Guardian here, and we get BBC News, and we are both the people who are in my family watch the BBC News more than we watch anything else here in America, because we feel that BBC and The Guardian are much more, I don't know that it's not honest. I can't say just, but more factual. And
More reliable.
yes, exactly. Much more reliable. And so it's interesting that we always hear that Britain is watching the American debates and what's going on in America, but we listen to Britain. We listen to Britain, and yeah, just keep it up. But especially keep up your podcasting, because I feel that you're at the absolutely leading edge of what it is we need to just process our ideas and to get the memes, the ideas out there for people to talk about. And if the reception of my first book is any indication, I really think that we've got this first human evolution, the suspended human evolution, and the second human evolution. The meme is something that is going to expand pretty rapidly. I mean, all of a sudden, I'm not signing up for podcasts. I'm being requested to join podcasts. It's just really, and that happened all in about a 6-month period. So it's not suddenly. I have to say that it is an accumulative, one of the chart with the little line going up. So I'm just delighted that we've got a conversation out there of what we're going to do about it. How are we going to do about it? How are we going to go for it? How are we going to plan? What's the pre-planning process? Where do we start? Because when I used to build hospitals, I would show up after the architect had gotten there, and I'm saying, well, where are the documents that show that you should even build a hospital? And a lot of times they either didn't even have it, or they just kind of thought they need to build a bigger hospital, or they just decided that, well, it's time to do something. If we don't do it, then somebody else will do it. And those aren't reasons to build a hospital. You have to do a lot of pre-planning. And that's something that we have to do in our meme. We have to start talking about the first human evolution and why it ended, and the second human evolution and what it should look like. We need to dream it. And that's all part of the second human evolution. And I mean, I'd throw a few in, like, okay, well, we have to have the religions of the world to get together and, agree on a few things. That's all. They don't have to agree on everything, but just agree on a few things. And then the countries, the leaders need to agree a few things. Our leader right now is Joe Biden, and I appreciate what he has done and what he is doing. One of the things he says is that it's now between democracy and autocracy. But, if you look close enough, you realize that American autocracy is in our laws. It's allowing the police to do their job. That's autocratic. Thank you. They're making sure people are not running stoplights and speeding. Our autocracy is our bureaucracy that holds our companies down to a non antitrust situation. So we've got all sorts of laws that are our autocracy. We don't have an autocratic leader, but we have all sorts of laws that are helping us regulate the behavior of individuals and corporations. And so, you look at China. China is an autocratic government, very strong. But guess what's happening? There's a lot of businesses in China. And yes, most of the businesses are state approved or state run, but they've got business people. They've got people starting their businesses. So there's all sorts of democracy in what they're doing with their people. And so I don't think that we should be drawing these lines. I think we have to look at the commonalities and what it is that we're talking about so that we're not polarizing what does not need to be polarized. We've got to unpolarize this planet, because the only polarizing that needs to occur on this planet are the magnetic poles between the North and the South Pole. Everything else needs to be dissipated. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it all makes sense.
So I guess in conclusion, I would say it's our responsibility to keep the talk flowing and to find commonality everywhere we can.
Absolutely. So throughout your whole life, between being president, a founder, carer for peace, international health facility development planner, which of these jobs or opportunities have you enjoyed doing the most?
Oh, I love the question. I liked what we did. We, as in Care for Peace, the nonprofit organization that decided to go and build a prototype community development and health center in one of the most difficult reached village in Myanmar, otherwise known as Burma. We had to fly from San Francisco to, let's see, we ended up in Myanmar, and then we had to take another flight to another small town, and then we had to take a boat trip to a small village where we had to hike 2 hours to another village, which is where we built this prototype community development health center. It was a unbelievable success, and it was a success because we worked with Aung San Suu Kyi's government. She was in charge at the time, and we worked with the state government of the Rakhine state where we were, and we worked with the villages and the ministers of health, and we worked with the people. We did not do it to them. We worked with them, so it really became a joint effort. And I was absolutely amazed at how well it came out. With the University of Virginia Center for Telehealth helped us set up a televideo system in this clinic, and we had to use satellite downlink to be able to communicate with a medical school in Yangon, and which is the main entrepot for the commercial people. It's where you fly in. It's the main airport there. And we got that all set up and ready so that we could build and approve 250 more of these community development and health centers throughout rural Myanmar. And it was wonderful. We were just getting ready to do it when the military overthrew the government. So we got a big kibosh into our plans. And that's why I decided, well, I don't have anything to do now. No more flying to Myanmar. Why don't I write a book? So that's what happened. I ended up writing a book out of that. The book ended up being it was a grace. It was wonderful for me to be forced to write a book. Got to sit at my computer, and I had to look back at 50 years of my career and think about all the wonderful things that I was able to do and all the failures and all the successes. Oh, few successes. Made lots of big failures. But that's the beauty of failing, is that you don't make the same mistake twice. So that goes right back to the Myanmar project. We didn't make any mistakes, except it might have been the wrong time because the coup came and toppled us and the government at the same time.
Yes, absolutely. If you were given 500 acres of land, what would you use that land for?
Well, it depends on where the land is. I am for the preservation of land. And one time I was invited to help I believe it was Catholic Healthcare West, build a hospital in Morgan Hill. And the property that they had was a bunch of walnut trees and flowers, wildflowers in the spring. And I remember the administrator, wonderful man, got up and said, "Here we are at this wonderful brand new hospital in a land that used to be a walnut tree orchard and beautiful wildflowers." And I'm standing there looking at the hospital, kind of saying, "Well, no, wait a minute. That place looked beautiful before the hospital got stuck there." So I think my answer to your question is, boy, leave it alone. We need more bare earth. Now, if I've got earth that is supposed to have something built, then I would build a community development and health center. We have been in contact with other governments looking for another place for us to build one, because we have the template now for building these things. And I would definitely consider doing that in Guatemala or Nicaragua, Nigeria, definitely, because that's where the idea of Care for Peace began. And I think that the idea of community development and health together is a real winner. The idea of putting community health with the health center came from one of Aung San Suu Kyi's top counselors, a woman by the name of Mar Tin Aung. And she said, "Well, this is nice that you're building this nice brick and mortar clinic, only 50 square feet. Why don't you include community development? Because everybody's going to be using this development for health. Why don't you use it to help people who want to get into business, or people who want to do something for their community?" Well, what's interesting enough is that we said, sure, we'll do it, because this was a combined effort. And it was wonderful that the government could put their name on this thing. And so by putting their name on it, we ended up seeing this community development and health center help people build a pond that ended up being a pond that they could grow crabs in these little baskets in the pond that they would feed the cattle. So, this is the community development process that went along with the take care of the village process. And I would just do that again in a minute. Building just a health clinic? No, I would build a community development and health center all over the world, and especially in these deep rural places.
Yes. If you could live anywhere else in the world, where would it be?
Oh, that is a good question. I've lived in, let's see, Amsterdam, London, and I've also lived in a lot of the places where I have worked. When I first started working on an international level with Kaiser Foundation International, I was in Curacao, and then I was in the Bahamas, and I was in Bahrain and the Persian Gulf, and all these places were wonderful. And they were wonderful because of the people. The people everywhere we go are just the salt of the earth. And remember, we work with a lot of healthcare people and a lot of professional people. And we also work with a lot of the villagers wherever we go. Like when we were in Curacao, we worked with the villagers. And when I was in Nigeria, I worked with the villagers. In Kenya, we had a project in Kenya. I never went to Kenya, but I worked with the villagers that came over and met with me, and just wonderful people. So it's difficult for me to ask where I would live with the thought that I'm going to name a place. But because where I want to live is, boy, give me anywhere where there's wonderful people. I don't think I'd want to live, on some beautiful beach. I'd go crazy, although I'm writing books now, and so I could probably live on a beach, to write. But I'm with Socrates. If I can't be with people and have conversations like this with you, yeah, give me the hemlock. I living on a beach, that wouldn't work for me. I need to have the human interaction, and that's what I live for. So I'd say to you, put me anywhere. I'll really enjoy it no matter what. And that isn't that a lousy answer to your question?
Fabulous.
Oh, well, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, I probably want to live. We worked with the Brits. I'm sorry, I hope I could call them the Brit. That wonderful people when we were in Bahrain for a whole year. Oh my God. We watched Blazing Saddles, the movie, at the British Club. And I've never laughed so hard in my life. I'd already seen the movie, but I was watching the movie with all these expat Brits, and they were just roaring with laughter. They were so much fun, and they were our friends. It couldn't be better. So yeah, I'd probably say I'd live in London or, somewhere where we could be with a lot of the regular down home country Brits. Just great. If there is such a thing as a down home country Brit. That's what we say about Americans. Oh, they're just good down home country Americans. So I don't know. What is a what would you call someone in your country who would be just the salt of the earth?
I honestly have no idea. I never thought there would be such a name for people like that.
Yeah. My father, who is British, said, a gentleman must be steady. And so I grew up with that wonderful word, steady. And I would say that's one of the things I love about the people in Britain and from Britain, the expats and the pats. Just I really appreciate the steadiness, because that's what you bring to the table when you're having a discussion that is difficult. Because people they're eloquent in their method of discussion, and nobody yells and nobody walks out of the room. Nobody acts obstreperous. There is a decency in the place of communication with two or more people. So I would answer my own question by saying, be steady is a wonderful, wonderful thing. My father is the most wonderful man I have ever known. And he graduated from Harvard, and he was a very special consultant to the state of Hawaii in healthcare, maternal and data management. But what a wonderful man. And he was the steadiest person I have ever known. Salt of the earth. And he's what his spirit lives at any time I'm with the British people, wherever they are. So I'd say London. That's the answer to my question. Your question. Yeah.
Fabulous. Sweet. And that is all we have for this episode. It's great having you on, Jeff, talking about achieving international peace and the issues surrounding today's society and many other things. It's been fabulous.
All right, Peter. Well, thank you very much. And let's start spreading the second human evolution discussion.
Yes, absolutely. And until next time, stay tuned for more.